I spent 20 years solving the wrong problem, and you're doing the same thing right now. From intermittent fasting to vegan to carnivore to paleo, keto, pescatarian, I've tried every diet that made sense, studied every framework that had good evidence. And while each different approach promises to be the solution, by definition, they all contradict each other. It felt like I was swapping sides in a religious debate, trying to argue that my God is better than your God. Meanwhile, all religions point in the same direction to the same thing. So, what is that same core truth that all diets are trying to point towards? In this episode, I'm going to share the framework that I've used that completely simplified nutrition for me and my clients by focusing on that universal truth behind all the diets, that all the diets are pointing towards. What if you went beyond weight loss or getting shredded or having your doctor promise that your blood work looks normal? What if you went beyond all of these indirect indications that you are healthy, i.e., simply looking healthy, and instead you focused your nutrition on what actually makes you healthy? Then you can enjoy looking healthy as an unavoidable side effect, one of many unavoidable side effects of actually being healthy. Just like many religions have become consumed by the rituals of looking spiritual instead of actually becoming spiritual or actually helping individuals spiritually actualize, so too are many diets consumed by the pursuit of looking healthy or making individuals look healthier instead of the pursuit of health, instead of making people actually healthy. You can look in the mirror, you can look healthy in the mirror, and even in your blood work, especially according to conventional medicine, but actually being healthy is an entirely different thing. The diet industry has convinced us to think about food as a game of aesthetics, metrics, fuel, and rules, instead of a game of vitality, a game of energy, clarity, and recovery. Now, I've already experienced this same seismic paradigm shift before once in my movement practice, at least once. I've actually experienced it elsewhere too, but the strongest parallel I'm feeling is in my movement practice. I shifted from chasing what I wanted my body to do for me, how I wanted my body to look for me. And I shifted to studying what my body actually is, what it does, and how it works. Then I've tried my best to support that system as it is, to do what it does, and trust the outcome. And what has the outcome been? Well, I've received mountains more from developing my body's movement than I ever could have imagined while I was focused on building its muscles. Movement has become a kind of profound personal experience compared to bodybuilding, a kind of spiritual awakening. So when I applied this same thinking to nutrition, I discovered that every successful diet, vegan, carnivore, keto, paleo, etc., they're all touching different parts of the same elephant. As the parable goes, picture 5 blind men encountering an elephant for the first time. One touches the leg and declares it's a tree trunk. Another feels the trunk and declares it a snake. The third touches the side of the elephant and declares it a wall. Each man is absolutely certain he's right, but they argue endlessly. They're all describing the same elephant, but from different angles. That's exactly every diet debate you've ever witnessed. And a quick reality check for you. 3 out of 5 of my thousands of clients I've worked with have told me that they think they're pretty healthy. But in my assessment, only 1 in 20 just crossed the bar. If you think you're pretty healthy, there's a good chance that means nothing and you're lying to yourself. We all have mountains of distortions around food and health. So what if instead of choosing sides in the diet wars, you had a way to see the whole elephant? What if you had and could understand the underlying operating system that makes any dietary approach works better? That's what I'm sharing with you today. The universal framework that focuses on what actually creates biological health. And the result is stable energy, mental clarity, and reliable recovery, regardless of your dietary philosophy of the moment. There are two components that have emerged from this realization. One is a map of foods, the other is sustainable, subjective energy, clarity, and recovery. One is biological, one is psychological. The most important outcome of any health practice is improving our subjective personal experience over the long term. Nothing else matters if we don't feel better and keep feeling better and better. But learning to use our conscious experience of energy and clarity as our guide, the subjective North Star, requires practice and a lot of self-awareness. So that's where the food map comes in. This has helped me and my clients get to the point of nutritional embodied intelligence more reliably, more easily. So this episode is going to focus on that food map. A simple operating system for food made of just 3 categories. These 3 categories are based on the fundamentals of human health, our gut and inflammation. The fundamentals of human health as it relates to nutrition, which is the primary controller for our health. My journey before this was a mess of contradictions. I was and still am a systems thinker who understands complex systems, yet I couldn't figure out my own body. I'd follow a diet perfectly for a while, only to eventually feel worse or fail, or get bored or get over it. These externally imposed rules they have their pros and their cons. I ate mountains of supposedly healthy foods like whole grains and certain vegetables. But I was still dealing, the joint pain would come back and the digestive issues wouldn't heal and my energy was ultimately unreliable. The breakthrough came when I stopped looking for that perfect diet and I started looking for universal principles. I realized it wasn't about ideology. It was and still is about biology and psychology. It's about how food actually interacts with each of our bodies and how our psychology is impacted. When I stopped fighting food and started categorizing it based on everything we know about how it affects people, everything changed. My energy has stabilized, my mental clarity has improved noticeably, the nagging symptoms of poor recovery have disappeared. It's a beautiful experience. And this isn't just my story. This system is built on the foundational principles of functional medicine. It boils down the complex science into 2 questions about any food you eat. Does it cause inflammation? Does it heal or harm my gut? Every diet, whether they know it or not, depends on successfully addressing both of these 2 factors, or it will eventually fail. This framework makes the process simple and puts you in the driver's seat. I call it the food map, as you've heard. It's sticking, it's working nicely, and it belongs within my broader body compass system, so I suppose we can call it the body compass food map. It's as simple as a traffic light, but for your food, obviously. Red, yellow, and green. The red zone contains foods that are universally harmful, not fit for human consumption. The green zone contains foods that are universally healing. This is the medicine. And the yellow zone, well, this is where things get a little blurry. Proceed with caution. This system will only be useful to you if you agree with these two statements, though. 1. The goal of our nutrition is health optimization. 2. The foundations of health are our gut health and our inflammation, the gut inflammation axis. Let's break down this food map. The red zone is simple. These are foods that are fundamentally incompatible with human biology. They offer little to no nutritional value and actively cause harm by driving inflammation and gut disruption. Think of them as poison and the cause of the static noise and confusion in your system. Our goal here is unambiguous. Eliminate. The main culprit or concern is processed foods. And it's actually deceiving even to call them foods. They're industrial formulations engineered to be addictive and or cheap. They're not food. At best, we could call them food-like substances. So what else is in the red zone? First, industrial seed oils, corn, soy, canola, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed oil. They're chemically unstable and highly inflammatory. Most fast food and restaurant food is cooked in these oils. Second, refined sugars and artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, white sugar, aspartame, sucralose. They wreck your gut and your hormones. Third, processed and packaged foods, anything with a long list of chemical ingredients you can't pronounce, chips, cookies, breakfast cereals, most packaged goods, sodas. Read the label. Preservatives, artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners. No go. Fourth, gluten and most grains. Wheat, rye, barley, spelt, and most modern grains are inflammatory and gut disrupting for many people. Not worth the gamble. And fifth, conventional animal products, factory farmed meat, dairy, and eggs from grain-fed animals. The quality here in animal products matters enormously. Now, removing all of these foods will quiet the inflammatory noise in your system. You will feel profoundly different. Your first step isn't to be perfect. It's simply to become aware. Start by removing the obvious offenders first. What do you think is the most toxic thing you consume from this list? What is the thing you consume the most from this list? What are you most addicted to or dependent on in this list? These are a good place to start. I used to eat supposedly healthy store-bought granola for breakfast, but when I looked closer, it was loaded with sugar and sunflower oil. It was a red zone food pretending to be healthy. There's a lot of those. Keep your eyes peeled. And red zone means red zone. If it's got a single ingredient in the red zone, you need to remove it. The green zone is the foundation of our nourishment. Let's discuss this. The green zone is our medicine. And these are the foods that heal and protect us. They are genuinely good. For us, they sustain life. They are medicine. They're anti-inflammatory, they feed our good gut bacteria, and they provide the rich nutritional information that our cells need to thrive. The principle in the green zone is also simple. Maximize. Red is eliminate, green, maximize. Which specific food you choose to maximize is up to you, up to your eating philosophy and personal preferences. Variety is always a good idea, in my opinion. Prioritize micronutrients over macronutrients. But from a biological perspective, these foods are all gold. These are the foods our great-grandmothers would have recognized. Quality animal products, grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, pasture-raised chicken, lamb, and bone broth. If you're adventurous, organ meats are nutritional powerhouses. Fresh vegetables, especially leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini. Focus on the colorful, non-starchy varieties and eat as many as you can. Healthy fats and oils. Extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and natural fats from grass-fed animals like ghee and tallow. Then low-sugar fruits, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries. These are antioxidant powerhouses. Lastly, fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, and unsweetened kombucha, that they actively support your gut health. Build your plate around these different foods. Don't overthink it. The more the better. See what you like. Try and use as much variety as possible. Maximize. When I shifted my focus from simply restricting foods to maximizing these green zone foods, my mindset shifted quite easily. It wasn't about deprivation anymore. It was about abundance. And my body responded instantly with more stable energy and elevated clarity. Even my nervous system feels much more relaxed when I've made this switch. Now, this is the most important zone to understand, the yellow zone. The red and green zones are simple and crystal clear. But the yellow zone is a lot more nuanced and defined by its ambiguity. This is where you need to stop being a follower and become a scientist, a curious investigator of your own body. You cannot be a blind follower or parrot. The yellow zone is based on the principle of biological individuality. One person's food is another person's poison, and that's just a biological reality. These are foods that aren't universally harmful, but they might be a specific problem for you. So this takes experimentation. What is in the yellow zone that you need to look out for? First, nightshade vegetables, potatoes, tomatoes, bell peppers, eggplant. Second, pasture-raised eggs. So these are the good eggs, but still reactive for some people. Even high-quality dairy like grass-fed ghee, raw cheese, and some milks. High-quality sources, but still reactive for some people. Third, nuts and seeds, even if they are the highest quality and organic. Almonds, walnuts, cashews, chia, and flax seeds, they are not guaranteed to be medicine for everyone. There might be reactions. Fourth, even gluten-free grains and legumes, rice, oats, corn, lentils, beans, and even properly prepared soy. We cannot guarantee that these are not reactive for everyone. They simply don't qualify for the green zone, but they are not poison, so we don't put them in the red zone. Fifth, shellfish, also reactive for some people. Shrimp, crab, lobster, mussels. Sixth, higher sugar fruits. Mango, pineapple, ripe bananas, dried fruits. The sugar load can be extremely gut disruptive and pro-inflammatory. Seventh, even natural sugars in moderation, things like raw honey, maple syrup, and dates. These need to be individually tested. Even though that is a healthy prescription, have raw honey in moderation. For example, you need to explore the reality of that effect for you. Even some high-quality red meats can fall into this category for certain individuals. On a biological level, there can be reactions. Many of these foods are considered healthy, often, but for many people, they can be hidden sources of inflammation. And how do you find out? You have to test them. And the tool for this is a simple elimination and reintroduction process. You remove a food for a period, you see how you feel, and then you bring it back in, carefully observing your body's signals. This isn't about restriction, it's about data collection, gathering insight to build your personal body's owner's manual. For me, the biggest surprise was nuts, and the biggest loss was eggs. How supposedly healthy foods. They are healthy foods, but based on my biological state at that moment, I was reactive. I developed an intolerance, a reactivity to them. Possibly because I was eating them all the time. This can happen. Because eggs I would eat every day, nuts you can find in almost every healthy snack. So I was getting them in consistently, probably without much break. So then I discovered they were a trigger. I felt it first intuitively. I experienced the sensations, and then I confirmed it later with some functional lab tests. Healthy for many people, but a personal yellow zone food for me. Not permanently, just right now. Removing them played a significant, pivotal role in my gut's healing journey. It's a fact. If I'm having, or if you're having a reaction to a food and then you remove that food, your whole body's immune system, the whole state of your gut is probably going to improve. Just as a result of the physiological mechanisms at play. So this is not a random list of good and bad foods. It's a system. And it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all diet, like many diets are trying to be. In fact, it's trying to break free of the one-size-fits-all. It's an attempt to give you a decision-making framework that you can put your hands back on the steering wheel. The red zone clears out all the noise and the damage. We just have to be honest about what's not fit for human consumption. The green zone is a much smaller group of foods, more than enough to live on, but they are the powerful foundation of nourishment. The yellow zone, this is where there is ambiguity that we have to acknowledge, and it's where you need to personalize the entire framework for your unique biology. Now, this creates a virtuous cycle. You remove the inflammatory foods, you heal your gut with the nourishing ones, and then you fine-tune the approach that actually works for your body right now. These are facts, not beliefs, not dogmas. It comes down to what actually works for you. And you can use this information in the next 24 hours without any drastic change. For one day only. Keep eating exactly what you eat now, but get a piece of paper and draw 3 columns, red, yellow, green. As you eat, simply categorize each food ingredient, and, well, that's it. The simple act of awareness is the first step. You'll immediately see where your opportunities are, where your patterns are, and what the biggest threats are. You'll see red zone foods immediately. It's simple what to do with them. You'll clearly see the yellow zone candidates for testing. You know you need to pay attention to how these foods are actually impacting your personal biology. And so the framework instantly clarifies any diet you're currently following. The body compass food map. The red zone, foods to eliminate because they're harmful. The green zone, foods to maximize because they're healing. The yellow zone, foods to test carefully to honor your own biological individuality. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the food map is one of 2 sides of the body compass system, the biological side. Need to take care of this first to clear the lens. Then the other side of the coin is our personal subjective psychological dimension. That's how we take this to another level. And this is not another diet. It's a framework that is intended to, that I have used to end food confusion for good. It moves us from being passive followers of rules based on averages to becoming active operators of our own biology. We have a way, it gives us an opportunity to listen to our body and to trust its signals. The first step is clearing the noise, and this is the importance of understanding the red zone and paying lots of attention to the yellow zone. Your first step is simple. Don't try to change everything. Do the 24-hour categorization exercise I mentioned. See where the food you're eating falls. Then I want you to pick the one red zone food you eat most regularly and commit to eliminating it for the next week. Just one food, 1 week. I'd also love to hear from you. Based on this, what's the one supposedly healthy food you now suspect might be in your yellow zone, or in your personal yellow zone? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. Sharing your experience is a great way to take one step. Good luck.